All right. All right, how's it going, everybody? James Palmer here from Scoop City at The Athletic. This is going to be our first live stream that we're really have ever done. This is a test. This is our first go. This is the I'm the monkey getting shot into space. All right, we're going to talk about some questions that you've had. I posted some stuff on X and Twitter, however you call it, still, and give you the opportunity to kind of throw some questions out there. You can interact here with some questions as well live, and we figured we just have a nice little chat here. We'll give a minute, see if we can get some people to join again when we're going through this first one while Joe Brady is also getting introduced. So he's got his first press conference as a NFL head coach. This is our first live stream for Scoop City here at The Athletic. Okay. Taped a bunch of stuff this morning you might want to check out later. Talking to Chad Graff, covers us, the Patriots for us, which I thought was a really, really good conversation about Drake May, his shoulder. If you want to know your Patriots stuff, that show's coming out later today. But yeah, so let's see if we can get this thing going a little bit before we kind of start. As I sit down here in my basement behind I've had people say this is a Banksy, by the way. It is a Banksy. No, it's not. My son painted that, which he just got an award. No bragging from this father, but he's going to have a piece displayed at the Denver Museum of Art. No big deal. Somebody got talent, not me. All right. We'll go through. You can throw some, I think, as we did this, like I said, chats in here. But you can also, we'll also have some questions lined up that people threw out there on the Twitter sphere earlier. Do we want to throw a question up? No, I'm kind of talking to myself, but we can maybe throw a question up and start this thing and get it going here. Ooh, okay. Is there a surprise trade to look out for this offseason that we aren't talking very much about? All right, we're already in that mode right now where we're talking about the offseason, obviously, because most of the fans are interested in what's happening. There's 30 fan bases wondering what 2026 is going to be like as opposed to the Super Bowl. Understandable. So when we look at this offseason and trade stuff, obviously, first off, there's the big ones off the top of my head. You know, Kyler Murray is obviously a hot commodity. People think that he is done in Arizona. Contract plays a part as well as the new head coach, which hasn't been announced, and what their say is and what their thought is for Kyler Murray. But the buzz around the league when you talk to people is that he's most likely going to be on the move. That's an obvious one. Tua Tagovailoa, I think, is another one that a lot of people think he is done playing in Miami. Obviously, the dead cap hit will be astronomical, but honestly, it's a smaller percentage of the cap than what Denver had to deal with the Russell Wilson dead cap hit that they're now out of into 2026. They dealt with it the last two seasons, which was $84 million split over 2 years. This would actually be larger in terms of dollars, smaller in terms of percentages, but a lot of people think Tua will be gone. So that's another one that's pretty obvious. AJ Brown is one that's been discussed heavily. I remember talking to people there during the deadline, and it was we're not going to trade him during the season because we want to repeat as Super Bowl champs. That's pretty specific language. We'll see what this offseason does. It just almost seems like it's inevitable, but we'll see. That's what Nick Sirianni's good at, is managing personalities. And so we'll see what ends up happening with AJ Brown. But these are the three that a lot of people assume are the ones that we have our eye on. I'll give you one. And I was stalling. DJ Moore in Chicago. Could that be a wide receiver that's on the move? As we're going to follow that position a lot during this offseason, whether it's George Pickens and, the season that he had, and now he's going to be, set to be a free agent. Where does he land? Could DJ Moore be the one that's on the move? That might be a surprise one because they have this young core with Rome Odunze and Colston Loveland and Luther Burden the third. I almost called him Junior. Luther Burden the third. And you have all these young pieces around Caleb Williams that he's growing with. It seems kind of like, could that be somebody that could potentially be on the move in DJ Moore? That's one that I could say maybe hasn't been really discussed a lot. That could potentially be something that is explored if somebody ends up calling Chicago and is curious about him, because you saw at times he wasn't really a focal point. There are times where obviously you saw how good of a player he is, how good of a route runner he is, but is it a perfect fit? And with all the young group growing, I don't know. We'll see. That would be one that I would think we could keep our eye on that I haven't heard as much. Mac, what else we got here? What else can we throw out here? Why are the Cardinals wasting time on Clint Kubiak? He's not a realistic option for them. Clint Kubiak already said he doesn't get the Raiders job. He's going back to Seattle. All right. Well, Clint Kubiak has options. Clint Kubiak, let's just get into it, has been outstanding in what he's done with Seattle and how he's moved Jackson Smith and Jigba around, and is probably a better fit for Sam Darnold, if you ask people up there, than maybe Kevin O'Connell was even for Sam this past year. And we have a shortage in essence, a little bit, of these offensive minded play callers that are out there, and then the options that are there. And a lot of people have connected Clint Kubiak to Vegas. And I think Arizona needs to look into everything. I don't think they're going to waste time. I think you somebody like Clint Kubiak that's out there and he hasn't taken a job yet, you do your best to try to persuade him to try and take your job. I think that's a part of it. Now, Clint could always go back to Seattle. I think he's had 5 different jobs in 5 years. I don't envy his family as they've moved around the country. This would be another move, but his next move would be most likely for a head coach, which is a little different field than the ones that he's had. I do think Mike LaFleur is probably in play in Arizona for sure. I think that's still in play. Even though he left there without a deal, I think they're just trying to make sure they do their due diligence. And when you have an opportunity to hire another head coach like Arizona does, and you're probably not the most desirable location, just being completely frank, when I talk to people around the league and on where these jobs kind of rank, Arizona's kind of near the bottom. And so you got to shoot for the stars, man. You got to try to do everything you can to get anybody that you think might improve your organization. So I think that's kind of why this is playing out the way it's playing out. But I would say the likelihood of Clint Kubiak getting the job right now doesn't seem great. Obviously, anything can change, but it doesn't seem like that's the case right now. But again, you have to try to look into everything if you're looking to turn your franchise the way the Cardinals are. What else we got? What else we got here question-wise? What do we got? Percent chance Frank Reich is the interim head coach of the Jets before Halloween. Ooh. Who then gets kicked into a VP of football ops role for 2027, and why is it a 98.999% chance? Yowzers. Jets are getting some heat right now, man. It has been a wild first year for Aaron Glenn. He said, "Buckle your seatbelts," I believe. Rightfully so. He has parted ways now with both coordinators after 1 year. I think that's obviously can be looked at in a variety of ways. One, he's seeing things not up to par, and they're not going to sit and wait, and they're going to try to change them as quickly as possible. Two, there isn't a sense that this is kind of like a panic mode type of offseason. You saw the number of coaches on that staff that have been let go. Obviously, DC was a change during the season. You thought Wink Martindale was going to be the guy, and then Aaron Glenn said, remember at the beginning of all of this, that he wasn't going to call plays, and then now he wants to call plays, and now Wink is not in the running because he obviously doesn't want the job if he's not calling plays. And you see all of the turnover here that has gone on with the Jets. Frank Reich's name obviously has come up on the offensive side of the ball. They even kind of contemplated even keeping Tanner Enstrand in the offensive coordinator role still, and maybe hiring somebody else to come and join the organization and call plays. By the way, if that did happen, you don't have to abide by the Rooney Rule because you're not filling a coordinator job, even though the coordinator wouldn't be calling plays. It's a bit wonky or wild, however you want to look at it, but it's strange. I would say this. The reason I'm looking at this right now is what happens in terms of history and what has happened and transpired with young first-time head coaches. I'm not saying Aaron Glenn's young, but you know what I mean. First-time head coaches is when things go bad, oftentimes the head coach, and I've heard this from guys that have been in that position before, you start to panic in essence where you want to do everything yourself and you want to take care of everything yourself. And you start trying to put everything on your own plate. And I'm going to call defensive plays, even though I said I wasn't going to, because I don't trust anybody to do it but myself, because my job's on the line and my livelihood in this job is on the line. And delegating becomes very difficult when you get into panic mode. I'm not entirely sure Aaron Glenn's in panic mode, but that's the sense you get with everything that has transpired in year one and all the all the turnover in this in this group and all the turnover in this coaching staff. So it's something to keep an eye on the way this is going to go and how they're going to change this offense. And by the way, they still don't have a quarterback. It looks like Darren Muji, their general manager, is in it, obviously for the long haul in the way that he's building this. The number of first round picks they have in 2027, which is, I believe, 3 right now. It looks like they're banking on that maybe class that is supposedly better than this quarterback class to find the quarterback, but they do need to find some stability in what's going on within that organization. And it's just like history is not really on Aaron Glenn's side right now. He's one of 23 coaches. I had this written down. One of 23 coaches since 2000 to win 3 or fewer games in his first season. Of that group, only 4 rebounded to make the playoffs during their time with that team. So rough start, a lot of change. You just hope he's not trying to do too much and take on too much, which is kind of the appearance of it, honestly, right now. What else we got? What else we got here? What's the misinformation about between Sean Payton and Bo Nix? Okay, this is an interesting one. Just to put context out there, if nobody's really heard about it, Sean Payton and George Payton, the law firm of Payton and Payton that run the Denver Broncos, were out there talking to the media, I believe, on Tuesday. And Sean Payton talked about Bo Nix's ankle injury and that there was a predisposed problem when they got in there. They always find out more once they're in there during surgery, Sean said, and said that like it was a matter of when, not if, an ankle issue was going to happen with Bo Nix. It was probably a little more information than Sean probably wanted to put out there, but I do appreciate Sean giving us the information. I always appreciate Sean when he divulges a lot of information. He's one of the best football minds out there. And so that information kind of gets out there. And then Bo Nix ends up speaking on Wednesday after, I believe, owner Greg Penner spoke. And I want to clear this up first because I made some calls about it. This had the appearance that now Bo Nix wants to talk and dispute what Sean Payton went out and said about his ankle injury and about his health status, and that he's had previous issues and that was leading to further issues and all of that he wanted a rebuttal. My understanding is that wasn't the case. He was always going to speak because we hadn't heard from Bo Nix, the franchise player, the franchise quarterback, since he injured the ankle. Really, his last time we heard from Bo Nix was when he spoke with Tracy Wolfson on the field on one leg after they won that divisional game and we're going to the AFC title game, but nobody's heard from him since. So there was always the plan for Bo to talk. The plan was, to my understanding, for him to talk on Monday when all the other players talked during locker cleanout, but due to appointments, being on a scooter, schedule, all those things, it just didn't work out with him scootering around the facility and being available on Monday. So he ends up his first ability to speak on Wednesday. They wanted to knock everything out within the same week, whether it's players on Monday, whether it's coach and GM on Tuesday, the owner on Wednesday. They wanted to lump it all together at the end of the year to get everybody to talk. So Bo ends up talking. Now, did Bo kind of fire back a little bit? Certainly. Is that kind of the way the relationship is? 100%. I think that's part of the reason why it works. They're both very fiery. They both kind of go back and forth. They bark at each other for sure. And I think part of it, to my understanding, is any player does not want any hint of direction being put towards their injury prone when this is a guy who started like 60 plus straight games now, or any sort of thought that there is something that's an issue within my body that opponents can target and have more information towards, because that happens in the league as well. I think maybe did Bo take a little bit of offense that it could have been given that way? Do I think he was like really mad at Sean Payton? I don't think so, but I think he wanted to clarify that he's not injury prone, that he doesn't have massive issues. I think certainly that's kind of the case because the guy's played a lot of games and has been fine. I do think it's a little strange where he said he doesn't know all of my ankle issues. I think the Broncos do. They have one of the best medical staffs in football. They have one of the best in terms of transparency medical units in football, and the combine and everything that happens. These are massive investments, specifically at the quarterback position at the top of the draft, that teams make, and they are going to dig and prod and get as much information as possible. I doubt there's very little in your medical history as an adult that they don't know. But with that said, I think Bo's kind of defending his kind of durability and a mobile quarterback that is going to be fine, and I understand that. So really nothing there between the two sides, but understand where both guys are coming from. Specifically Bo with the way that he handled it because he's extremely competitive. But I wouldn't read into it entirely too much. All right, what else? We got anything else here? What else we got? Tanner Enstrand. I always say it wrong. Enstrand to Philly. Okay. The Philly OC job has been fascinating. Looks like it's like Sean Mannion, Jim Bob Cooter, Matt Nagy. Could you throw Tanner's name in the mix? Possibly. I haven't fully heard that just yet. I think they're still looking at what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball. This has been a fascinating type of scenario that's played out here since they parted ways with Kevin Patula. And I don't think they were ever honestly legitimately going to get Brian Dable or Mike McDaniel, who were at the top of their list. I think they've obviously kicked the tires on a lot of other guys, and they've taken jobs elsewhere, whether that's Bobby Slowick or that's Zach Robinson, or who went to Miami and Tampa respectively, and some other guys have Declan Doyle is back to working with Ben Johnson. Tanner be an interesting name. I do think obviously the time that he worked with Ben Johnson in Detroit plays a factor in probably some of the perception of what people think about him as a young play caller. As obviously some people think he did a decent job considering everything that was going on with the Jets. I know there were some people in Detroit that thought if they would have kept Tanner after Ben Johnson left, that offense would have maybe been in better shape than John Morton. Obviously, there's some opinions by people that were in that building in Detroit that I spoke with. So, I do think there's some intrigue there, and I think all eyes are on this offensive coordinator job in Philadelphia, and I think we're looking at a lot of them. I wouldn't be surprised if they hire more than one person, not co-offensive coordinators, but maybe they make other additions to that staff as well. Something to definitely keep an eye on. So let's see what else we got here. What else you got? Do the Niners make an aggressive move to get Jim Schwartz? Jim Schwartz has options. Jim Schwartz has different things that are on his plate. He is very desired, obviously, because of how good of a defensive mind he is. His players have always loved him. I'm not sure if he stays in Cleveland. It's not like in stone yet that he's out of Cleveland, but that's the perception I'm getting from speaking to a lot of people, is that he is a very prideful individual, and losing out on the head coaching job, that he would maybe want to go elsewhere. I could see the Niners being aggressive. I had somebody text me going, I could see the Niners working. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on Jim Schwartz. It's not like he's going to be without a job. I'll say that by any stretch because of how good he is. All right, what do we got? Another question, and then I got another thing I want to get to actually after that. Who are the Raiders targeting for their next head coach? Feels like every legitimate candidate has been hired. I would say there's one that hasn't, and they can't continue to move forward with him just yet till after the Super Bowl, and that would be Clint Kubiak. My gut tells me he's kind of the front runner. Now, I mentioned earlier with Arizona, I think what Clint wants is probably at play here as well, but I would guess that he's kind of near the top or at the top of their list. He put on a brilliant interview with Tom Brady in the booth in that NFC Championship game. They were actually interviewing, I think, Joe Brady that same day when Brady was calling that game in Seattle, which leads me to say something. I think it's interesting because speaking to people close to candidates that have gone through there, they're not entirely sure who's running the show. Brady's there for some stuff, then he's not there for other things. They walk out of it going like, is it John Spytek and Tom Brady co-running the Raiders? Or how is this going to work? He lives in Miami. He has another job that pays him $37.5 million a year. Like, I'm kind of scratching my head going like, how does this work? If candidates are saying that, I think that's something that the Raiders need to make sure that clarify to what's happening in these. I'd be wild to interview for that job and then have Tom Brady not in the interview. We'll see what happens with Clint Kubiak, but that seems to be kind of where it's at. I wouldn't rule out another candidate. I wouldn't maybe rule out, maybe say Davis Webb or somebody else. I know he interviewed very well in Buffalo, and they believe he's ready to be a head coach right now at 30, which shows how impressive I guess they were with that, but they were always going to go with Joe Brady. But I think Clint Kubiak kind of seems like the one that we kind of have circled there. But again, everything's fluid. Everything can change. We never really circled Todd Monken in Cleveland. So things can pivot and things can change in the eyes of ownership and who's running this. All right. I think I have one other thing I want to get to. Speaking of Joe Brady, his introductory press conference is going on right now. And Josh Allen there, I believe. And I believe he also is from our buddy Joe Biscaglia here at The Athletic. Josh Allen is here at Joe Brady's press conference on crutches and a walking boot. Now, the foot issue that he had was always going to get fixed, to my understanding, at the end of the season. When the season was over, he was going to play through it as long as the Bills were still playing football, and then they were going to fix it in the offseason. So Josh Allen in that boot. Josh Allen was in the meeting rooms and the interview rooms as part of this head coaching hire, and now he, I would assume, checked off on this as well as everybody else there, that Joe Brady's the guy, and Joe Brady moves into the head coaching role there with the Bills, and Josh Allen heads to rehab and continues to, that sounded bad, didn't it? Heads to rehab that foot throughout the course of this offseason and see if the Bills can get over that hump, the reason why they made changes. Okay, this was our first time ever doing this, by the way. We'll do it more frequently. We'll continue to do it on Thursdays at noon. Hopefully, more people can continue to kind of grow a little community here with a little interaction, maybe, and we can kind of have some fun with this about, touches on some NFL news, tell you guys what's kind of going on here. I'm hitting up the slopes to ski a little bit in Colorado here this weekend, as we have no football before Super Bowl week. So that should be fun. Wishing for snow, but everybody on the East Coast stole all of it from us as we wanted. But again, every Thursday at noon, we're going to go live here for a little while and answer some questions. I'll always put it out on social media about, fire away, throw some in there, but don't just throw them in and then not show up. You want your question answered. You want to know the answer, don't you? So appreciate everybody joining. Appreciate everybody stopping by, and thanks for tuning in. And I think we touched on a couple little things, a couple little news nuggets in there that I think hopefully enlightened you a little bit. And I'll see you all when you do this live next Thursday, as I say it for the third time, noon Eastern. All right, take it easy.